Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to a special Etims podcast. My name's Desmond, and tonight, here to talk about our lovely Celtic board, we have the man across the water, CM Monty Burns. Good evening, Monty.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm looking forward to this topic immensely.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. We have the man down south. Thankfully, I'm glad to say he's managed to join us tonight, Ralph Malv, the board's very biggest fan. Good evening, Ralph.
How you doing? This will be good.
Look at it. Sadly, folks, you can't see this in video, but Ralph's face literally is stripping him. And of course, the man, the resident tactician, but tonight, the man who's sticking up for the proletariat, Hector Bandido. Good evening, Hector.
Hi, Desi. Why are you both a bunch of cunts? Hi there.
You're live on Channel 4. Please.
Who had 35 seconds in the
35 seconds.
Okay, folks, so this is going to be a special quick podcast, hopefully, this reviewing a few key aspects regards our Celtic board, which have been annoying us on the WhatsApp group and via Twitter the last couple of days or so. Hopefully you've caught up with Ralph's Etims diary on etims.net. But without further ado, let's get into the Celtic board. Hector and Monty, you can relax a little bit because I've for Ralph just to rant for a little.
Press his mute button.
And I've just wrote here one word, Ralph, board, right? So underneath the board, the Celtic board, lovely, Hector's got a Prosecco to celebrate the board. No, I've got Brian Wilson, big exclamation mark. I've got, Higgins, and then I've got AGM. So I'll let you take it away, Ralph. If you'd like to bring everyone up to speed and what I mean by those words. Brian Wilson, Benny Higgins, and the AGM. On you go. Or everyone can relax, right? Monty's already doing away again. I can. Hector's now filling up the Prosecco glass. Carry on, Ralph.
Sat down and they thought, right, look, we're winning. Nobody's going to take any notice of what we're doing. So let's get that guy in for the police. Mind the guy that was going to do that inquiry and stick up for us. The one that was doing the dawn raids on the Green Brigade. So they're going to get him in. And you think to yourself, they're missing everything. And Brian Wilson wrote something in The Guardian, which is entirely untruthful. A board member at Celtic actually said that Rangers get demoted as a punishment for getting into administration. The Guardian has a history of typographical errors. And you think to yourself, Jesus, what's going on here? Is that actually what the board are thinking?
I flicked this up on Twitter, Ralph. I have a complete puzzlement in my head about this because I'm trying to understand. No one actually believes in the continuity myth apart from the lunatics across the city. No one. And that's throughout Scottish society and throughout Scottish football. So why would someone in such a public position make such a very deliberate, and that wasn't a throwaway comment. He wrote that down.
Can I just read it?
When somebody sit in front of the board says, I'm all right with saying this.
But that phraseology, this is my point, Ralph, that phraseology is very, very specific. And no one benefits from this. No one.
Well, Desi's going to read out.
Let me read it out, Monty, and then you can continue, all right? Just to give everyone a bit of context in case they're not up to speed. So this is Brian Wilson, I think he's a non-exec director. This sits there quite smugly at all the Celtic games and the Celtic and Ibrox. Here we go. Brian Wilson wrote, here's what he wrote. However, by this time, the club was caught up in Rangers were talking, this is the Walter Smith memorial. However, by this time, the club was caught up in a bewildering series of intrigues and takeovers as well as having been punished with demotion in 2012 for having gone into administration. Smith was a man of great probity, and not even his loyalty to Rangers or to his friend Alan McCoy, who had taken on the role of manager, could persuade him to stay in an Ibrox environment he did not recognise. So there you go. Rangers were punished with demotion for having gone into administration.
And as Ralph pointed out, every word is factually incorrect. They weren't punished, they weren't demoted, and they certainly weren't punished for going into administration. Everyone knows this. So why would a politician make such a pointed statement in an article?
And a Celtic director
at that. Yeah. It just does not make sense. It's like you'd have to think someone rewrote the words for him, or it was fucking ghostwritten, but it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Was it just the man's a newspaper editor. He's been a newspaper editor for 40 years.
See if that was ghostwritten, right? He'd have come out almost immediately
and said, "Yeah, that was
challenged that." So he did it. He's clearly not an idiot, right? He wrote some. Listen, he wrote that. Let's be honest. The Centenary book was a fantastic book in Celtic, and he wrote it. So you think to yourself, why would he do that? I get the obituary. No one's got an issue with that whatsoever. But to delve into that part of it, why go there?
And be so specific. Yeah. So specific. He effectively stated the continuity myth in its entirety.
Yeah.
And there is no benefit to this. It's not that he's trying to resuscitate the fucking dead body, because they did enough of a good job of that it kind of sprung back to life last year, at least to some point, and will die again probably soon. But no one benefits from that. Scottish football doesn't benefit from a strong second Rangers. Scottish football benefits from a strong Scottish football environment, which interestingly it was at its most competitive when they died or after they died and this new thing started. So I think
the thing that intrigues me with guys like Brian Wilson at Celtic is he's a non-executive director. So his job is to hold the board independently to account. And he's the complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
He's actually as if he's the board's poodle within the board, doing as they ask him to do, rather than say, well, hold on a wee second, Mr. A or Mrs. B, you're not doing this or not doing that. I want to challenge this. It does the complete opposite. So it's a job for the boys within Celtic. And you know, it's really frustrating. Really frustrating.
Deeply out of touch. Sorry to cut across, Ralph. It was just fresh in my head from the debate.
No, it's not that. What I can't figure out is it actually what he thinks, or is it actually what he thinks he should say?
No, he's just a dick. I think it's as simple as he's a dick. He's a dick. And I don't think it's a calculated, I'm going to wind people up here, or I'm going to sideway. I think he just is.
Yeah, that's just what he thinks.
Do you think it's politics? Hold on, Ralph. Can I ask Daisy, Ralph, can I ask Daisy a wee question? Just on what you just said there, Daisy, right? I never thought it that way until you just said that. Do you think he's actually playing politics rather than football? Yeah. Do you think it's about him being a Labour man in the union, trying to appease to the Rangers fans for their votes? Do you think that's? I'm not, and I didn't know this till you said that, by the way, right? So
I think a lot of that in it is very much. You've got, again, I don't know how much Monty and Ralph will know, but Hector, we see there's a big ramping up of the Save the Union side coming in Scotland. It's starting to get ramped up.
You're going to get that.
I mean, continuously Gove and all that, and various civil service jobs going to Edinburgh, but been under the UK government and all that. It's all ramping up. Exactly. He'll be looking. You've got that. Was it Tom Martin or whatever jumping to the toe? And Wilson will be looking for a slice. They don't want a slice of that pie. I mean, they're all looking for a nice wee turn. He's always looking for a turn for the Harris Tweed industry.
So sell out the Celtic fans just for that. And by the way, I'm not playing devil's advocate here. I'm actually genuinely, as we're talking here, just throwing questions out.
I don't even think he's that. I don't think it's that calculated. I just think it's that blasé. I think he can honestly. He's not going to be. He's just a dick and say things and not even care.
Sorry, Desi. Maybe we're looking at it through the wrong lens. To your point, his primary job is as a Labour politician, which means that he is, playing politics. That's his day job. He is a non-executive director, as you point out, Hector. So therefore, he's speaking in his personal capacity, no different than Bankia can talk about fucking robbing money off poor people and thinking it's a good idea because he's a Tory. Or maybe he would never say that publicly. So I've often defended the role of the board, but I fucking really dislike the individuals that are on it. But if they're good at what they're meant to do, then, who are we to judge?
What's he good at, Monty? Monty of interest, right? Sorry, Daisy, I jumped in again. Apologies, but just on your point, and we're agreeing on this. His role as a Ned, as a not a Glasgow Ned, right? Right. But what is his role? Is to challenge, right?
This is exactly.
What is the purpose of this guy then?
But if you take any board, I'm on a couple. You turn up, you have a brief, you have a preset agenda, typically produced by the CEO, a set of papers for you to review in advance, and your job as a Ned, not a Glasgow Ned, but a Ned, is to scrutinise what the CEO's put together, look for holes in it, offer guidance, challenge, and that's it. And in that context, you maybe meet once a month, once every 2 months, and that's all you do. So this is a sideline for Wilson, probably get some free tickets. Bankia's job's different. Bankia is the chairman. Bankia has a bit more to do. And the fact that we have a Tory figurehead, but again, Ian Bankia's politics is none of my business, in the same way mine's none of his. So he's the chairman of the board. He's got a job to do there. So maybe we look at them through the wrong prism. But we'd love them all to have the same values as us. But I know we've talked about this before. It's maybe not a bad thing that they don't, because then groupthink will kick in, and we'll all of a sudden be thinking that we'll all be fucking silent for half an hour.
But look at us, right? Look at us. We just hold on. We're just four fans, right? Just four punters, like any other four punters who we get the chance to do this through our site, and we're lucky that we can do this, right? But we vehemently disagree on a lot of things. No, a lot of things. Football or even off the field, we'll disagree on some things, right? But there's no concerted effort before we have a podcast to say, right, we'll talk about that, we'll agree on this, we'll disagree on that. And it's all scripted. Why have these guys got to work to a script and behave in such a way to antagonise a fan base that actually keeps them in a job?
But I don't think
pays a lot of their wages.
I don't think he's not out to antagonise us. He's just stating his opinion. That's it.
Yeah.
But he must know it's antagonising fans.
But if I
do you think he does?
Do you think this is an ivory tower situation? They sit up in a lovely big gilded boardroom. They're oblivious to how things are up in the top of the jockstein or whatever. Couldn't they care less? Because we do not keep them in a job. They've got shares up to their eyeballs, covering there's going to be an AGM, which is why I put AGM on it, and there's a various cut of motions declaring we don't have confidence in the board members. Every one of them is guaranteed to lose because Dermot and his friends hoard all the shares. It's just a total numbers game. It's a total joke. But what I was going to say, this to quickly go back to what you were asking Monty there, which is exactly what I was going to highlight, Hector, was Monty has held the board to account more in the last 12 podcasts, the last year in the podcast, regards financial responsibility, fiduciary responsibility, than Brian Wilson ever has. Because Brian Wilson's not there to question the board. He's there to fill up a seat into AGM as a respected politician and a member of society. He's CBE on his chest. And this look the part, and it's back to the Bernard Higgins. Bernard Higgins will come in. Celtic fans hate him.
That's it.
Bernard Higgins will come in. Celtic fans hate him. But Celtic will put out a press conference and says the celebrated ACC, blah, blah, blah. We don't care. But something
wrong about that whole thing.
So something interesting Monty alluded to regards questioning the board. And I watched that World War Z the other week again for the first time in ages. And there's a bit where Brad Pitt goes to Israel, and Israel have put up a big massive wall round so the zombies can't get in, right? Bear with me here. And Brad Pitt went,
No spoilers.
Right, Brad Pitt says, how did Israel know to do that? And the guy who's there says, Israel's got a 10th man policy. At every meeting, there'll be 10 people. And if 9 people agree, it's the 10th man's responsibility to say, I disagree. and it was his job to then, because so they heard on the line there's possible zombies in India, and the 9 people at the meeting went, yeah, but that doesn't mean zombies, and his job is to go, aye, but it might, so he's got to go away and do the job. So there's always somebody who has to say, stop, I don't agree, and start the argument and start the discussion. Celtic is just an echo chamber. The Celtic boardroom's an echo chamber of whatever Dermot wants it to be. Dermot says, jump, they go how high, they're quite comfortable. I mean, so a few of them may step down, and like when we heard it was Benny Higgins, we thought it might be Benny Higgins. The
Tesco kind of RBS guy.
I mean,
yep.
Exactly, but it looks more like being the police chief. But Benny Higgins would just be another Tory stroke capitalist in place for Dermot's contacts.
So see for folks who don't know and just listening in and thinking, what's all this about Benny Higgins guy? A little bit of context here, right? So there's Benny Higgins who, for Police Scotland, the Offensive Behaviour of Football Act that was put forward, he was one of the chief guys that enforced the law. Mm-hmm. And there's different ways to enforce the law. You can do it with a bit of communication, talking to people about common sense, or be a bit of a dick. And Benny Higgins, the way he conducted it as one of the lead guys involved, was a bit of a dick, right? And it's just important that people understand this. There's
allegedly.
There's a lot of football. Well, of course, I'm right? I'm not saying anyone else. Just saying the guys that. But there's football fans from many clubs, in particular Celtic, Rangers, other clubs as well. A lot of football fans have had their door kicked in at 6 o'clock in the morning, right, on allegations that when they went to court, were proved to be incorrect, and they were let go. But it impacted their family lives and their jobs. Some of these guys lost their jobs as well because of the actions enforced by this guy, right? So for Celtic to consider this guy, irrespective of his skill set, his experience, to actually consider appointing this guy head of security at Celtic Park when his actions, people working for him, has put Celtic guys in jail and lost their jobs, right, is an embarrassment. And I know wonder fans are going mental. And just another wee thing, you might not know about this, it's come out today. And I don't agree with this, and you've got the highest fucking regard for a lot of these guys. The Green Brigade and the Boys, the two of the main Celtic Ultra groups. So tomorrow's game, for the first half hour, there's no singing from them in protest of this guy potentially being appointed. Now, it's going to impact Ange and the players more than anything else, right? I wish they'd done a protest outside the front door at Celtic Park before the game and after the game. But many of their members have been impacted by the actions of this guy and lost their jobs, right? And I get the frustration and the anger. And only Celtic, of all teams, when the club's on a bit of an uplift after recent weeks, 5 in a row, as I spoke out tonight on the podcast, a bit of motivation, a bit of inspiration, a bit of confidence, and only Celtic could do this to create an issue that shouldn't exist.
But it is kind of shooting ourselves in the feet again. And I'm actually supporting the Green Brigade in this one because the board, I think we're all going to turn up week in, week out. We're going to pay our money. We're going to cheer the team. And they need to know that, listen, their actions have reactions. Simple as that.
Well,
this is a guy that turned Police Scotland into an instruction.
I don't disagree with the sentiment on it, but again, it's back to how you direct your energies and your anger. Right? So we've grazed around the board, we've grazed around Wilson, we've grazed around what are completely detached from, let's call it customer sentiment, if you will, completely detached from customer sentiment as regards appointments that the club is making. But we have to understand too, where are you going to go? If you think like them, where are you going to go? You going to hop over and support Partick Thistle next week? No. Mm-hmm. So there's a complacency. There's a reality around the fact that you don't really need to consider, unless it's utterly fucking controversial, a Union Jack away strip just because Bankia wants it. Maybe, I don't know. Unless it's utterly controversial, you don't really need to consider the 50 or 60,000 people season ticket holders. You don't. So you make a hire based on what you think you need. And there's definitely an old boys club there. But if you direct your energy in the right way, you actually can affect change at the board. But the board is a nebulous thing that doesn't exist. But if you directed your energy at an individual member of the board and said that this individual member is not fit for serving on Celtic's board because of the following 20 things, one of two things happens. The board either looks at it objectively or the board circles the wagons. The board circles the wagons, then you're right. And you can continue to put that pressure on either individual members or the function of the board. But we don't do that. We just shout sack the board. And we get really angry because they're going to give some other fucking idiot a job. And yes, I agree, he shouldn't be anywhere near Celtic Football Club. But he might be the right man for the head of security. So how do you square that circle? He might be the best candidate for the head of security.
No, he's not the best candidate.
Yeah, but it might not be.
But we don't know. We're not involved in the hiring.
No, but you can't appoint a guy that's going to cause division. Why even consider that?
If you don't really have to care about the 60,000
No,
people.
but you should. But this is the point about. Listen, no, I totally understand what you just said there. But the most important thing is the fan base, because without the fan base, as you know, we've had this discussion. You know better than me, right? Yeah. Unlike England or whatever, with Sky paying everything times 10, times 20, Celtic's dependent on the fan base to pay the bills. Why would you go out and appoint a guy who's actually caused folk to lose their job?
Right. Can I ask?
So just let me round out the point, Desi, because I'm going to shut up because I know we're near time. The thing is, we are connected online, therefore we are aware of the Green Brigade, therefore we are aware of the FAC bill, therefore we are aware that this guy directly, allegedly, impacted individual lives of tens of, dozens of, maybe a couple of hundred people. And in that world, it's a couple of hundred people, known only to people who are in knowledge of the Green Brigade, which is this singing thing if you're not online, which adds great atmosphere and makes political statements. So in that reality, is he really that impacting on Celtic? Is he really that divisive? And that all I'm doing is devil's advocate, because I totally think the fucker should be anywhere near the club. That's my point.
I would like clarification that when they did that reporting at the Janefield Street crush, it was done properly and fairly, and there's no collusion, because that collusion word keeps coming up in Scottish football. There was no collusion or agreement or back scratching, whatever else, between your man Higgins and the Celtic board, because both the police and Celtic Football Club as such could have maybe faced inquiries or whatever into safety that day, and the safety of the supporters is paramount to me.
Is this famous independent report that no one's ever seen?
That's the one.
Right, okay, right. We should be a minute of time, 25 minutes ago, but I'll just put one context up, right, just to try and cover Monty's point of view, or like basically Monty kind of alternative point of view, playing devil's advocate, and Hector's question, right? You're Dr. John Reid, right, a couple of years ago, and you're asked to be the Celtic chairman. You're not asked to be the Celtic chairman because you're a brilliant politician and you're a brilliant Celtic man. Yep. You're asked to be the Celtic chairman because you're a former Home Office bearer who's got a big contact book, and Dermot Desmond now supplies airport scanners to every airport in Britain and beyond. Right? This is on the private eye. I'm not just making assumptions. So that's why Dr. John Reid was on the Celtic board, for his contact list. So if you were looking to maybe get into UK home security, would maybe a guy that was high up in Strathclyde Police, Scottish Police, would that not maybe a good place to start? A guy who's got a good overview in the UK policing. Would that not be a good security guy? We were talking about Ronnie Hawthorne earlier on, remember? That kind of aspect. I think Higgins would have quite a lot of insider knowledge that Dermot would quite enjoy.
And we have to stop thinking that somehow the board has a soul. It doesn't. Yeah. The board is this nebulous thing to do things that have financial outputs at its heart.
But that's the problem, Monty. That's the problem. See, when you just said there, I know you think the same way as us, right? And I get why you're asking the question. But even the fact you're asking that question demonstrates the complete disconnect. Between the Celtic board and, I wouldn't just say some of the fans, I would actually say the vast majority of the fans, because
They don't represent it.
They don't represent the club. And by the way, for folk who are listening maybe for the first time, I'd like to apologise for the fact listening for the first time. But it's not about this whole historical thing. It's just about values, what's right and what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys represent, in my opinion, so much of what's wrong.
The worst excesses of society, in my opinion.
I've just written down here. The club stroke team stroke manager stroke players answer to the fans. The board answers to Dermot. That's the difference at the moment. The board do not represent the Celtic fans, and the Celtic fans cannot hold them accountable. We've got daydreams of being a Barcelona stroke Bayern Munich 50+1, but it's never going to happen at this point in time unless we really find a way of hurting them.
So here's a question, Desi. Here's a question for you just on that. You got me thinking you're making that point there. Right, there's obviously a lot of things happening down south the last number of years, and just recent events with Newcastle. I'm not saying for 1 second the whole Saudi thing with Celtic. If an American investor or whoever, Japanese, whatever, multi-billionaire wanted to buy Celtic, right, what were your thoughts on it?
Notice, would you think you would notice?
Values, and it was charity based, and they were nice guys, yeah, but.
Well, listen, let's be honest. Nobody becomes a billionaire being charity-based, do they? Initially, right? To get to where they've got to, their focus is on themselves to be, push themselves to the front. My point's this:
why would they want to buy us?
With Desmond and that, what he's been doing for the last number of years, and who's surrounding himself by these lackeys who represent things that we not despise to a large degree, but totally disagree with, right? Would we be against an overseas influence from Japan, Asia, America, whatever it may be, taking over Celtic? Is it a threat, or actually, see, based on where we are just now, does it really matter?
I was questioning, would you notice? But
does it matter?
This brings us back to another question. I don't even think you need to look that far. We've already had our friend Roger Mitchell talk about how he would quite like to get.
That's Ralph's mate.
Exactly. Steve, but he would like to get capital in. He would like to go to venture capitalist VC money and buy Celtic. But then we mentioned Bernard Higgins, the accountant.
The worst thing that can happen to Celtic Football Club is a venture capitalist firm buys it.
Yeah.
Roger's intent is good, but the worst thing that could happen to the football club is that they buy Desmond out.
I'm just looking, but the current market capitalisation for Celtic is 103 million. That's what your shares are worth. So say treble that if you're real interested in buying it and getting it. But that's a drop in the hat, isn't it? That's no much. If you're serious.
EBITDA. So I'm just looking for its EBITDA. 9.5. That's the average. 9.35 million. Then you'll get a multiple of that. So to buy Celtic, it's going to be a multiple of that EBITDA. So you're probably looking at the capitalisation of about 100 million, maybe about right.
102. No, that's what I'm saying. But you're looking at maybe 200 million to get to sweeten the deal, make it all nice and easy.
For Desmond, he would take just 10% over 100 million.
No, but he's getting about 10 million a year in dividends.
How much did he pay? The answer to how much you would need to buy Celtic is how much did Dermot Desmond pay for it, and then add on either a multiplier or add on a profit. Simple as that. And as he said,
what you're saying is we're stuck with him.
No, but no one. He said it himself. He'd sell it if someone turned up to him with the right plan and the right price. But no one has.
Yeah, the right plan doesn't matter. The right price matters.
Yeah, for him, yes. Yeah. But equally, the right price. Like, bear in mind, Celtic's second largest shareholder is a fucking vulture fund, and you do not want them.
So, Monty, can I ask you a question? As a significant entrepreneur in Ireland, if you had the funds to buy Celtic, would you do it?
Yes, I would do it on the basis of league reconstruction.
Put the heart aside. From the head perspective.
Celtic is a profitable business, extremely well run, in an environment where it's probably at its maximum capacity. So you're not really buying it to do anything in the environment. You would buy it to bring it to a new environment. That was
his plans.
That was his plans. But he got stuck in the British thing. He got totally stuck. Geopolitics of the last 20 years have completely changed. There will be it's already starting. There will be a European League. Scotland will be independent in the next 5 to 10 years. And there will be an independent Scotland inside Europe of some shape or form. And that's the point at which the change happens. So right now, medium to long-term play, 100 down, you're not going to lose. You're really not going to lose anything. You'd be stable. You got Champions League money. I'd be a wee bit more risk-prone. I would throw a bit more money into the pot to try and make Champions League. That's why I got a bit annoyed about the Europa Conference. But yes, I would. And that, when Mitchell mentioned that in the newspapers, which, we had the little sidebar about the notion of preferred candidate and all that. That's obviously smoke without fire. That is a punt worth taking if you've got deep enough pockets and if Desmond will sell, because it's going to happen. But he knows that too. His problem is he's 72 or whatever he is. His son might want to pick it up as a plaything. But I get a sense he'd sell it tomorrow if someone came up with the right money.
Well, here we go, Monty. Dermot, it has been reported that you should sell your shares in Celtic as you are not a true fan. This is March 23rd, 2021. That is a contemptible suggestion. I am as passionate about Celtic as any other supporter. My shares are not for sale. Brian Dempsey, in an article in the Times, is reported to be floating the idea that fans should own the club and that we have reverted back to where we were in 1994. When I think about the strength of the club today and the playing success that we have enjoyed to date, these are entirely attributable to being financially strong and being professionally managed under stable ownership. When I look back at the record of the club since 2001, we have achieved remarkable success and encountered only a few setbacks along the way.
Yeah.
Last season was one of them.
And you can't, when you stand back and objectively look at the track record under him, you actually can't argue with that. It's 100% sound, but the conservative piece that we feel isn't something that he feels. So the notion of, could you not just throw another fucking 10 million in and we'd have got to the Champions League maybe twice? Could you not just bought Stephen Fletcher for an extra $500,000? All of those things.
Or could you not have people on the board who are arseholes, who the fans get nothing in common with?
I think that would be the biggest.
Again, security advisors know on the board.
Yeah.
I didn't mean him, Desi. I mean in general. Your bankers and all that. Livingston's, right?
What difference would it make? What difference would it make if we?
I think it would help the fans. I think it'd help a lot of the fans, Monty. Right? Well, if you didn't have Tories running the club, right?
But would you spend more? Would you put more money into the club? Would you generate a bigger profit?
I'd sleep easier at night, Desi.
But you still go, as Monty mentioned earlier on, you would still go every second Saturday.
But it's my team before these guys got involved.
I know the point, but as Monty said,
but it's the point. No, it's a massive part of the point. The part like you and everybody else. My dad took me to the game as 5-year-old in the early 70s. So long before these guys got involved with Celtic to help their careers and their CV and a wee kind of not a Masonic handshake but a business handshake. Oh, I do this, do that. It's my team. It's your team. Right? Whoever the chairman is, doesn't matter if I'm going to go to see Celtic or no. I'm always going to see Celtic.
Reverse that.
Sometimes we round the podcast off. We started off earlier on with Laura coming on, with the T-shirts and everything else that she does. And I wear one that she's done, the open to all. And when people say to me, because it's got the rainbow in the sleeves, and they ask, what's all that about? And I say, it's my way of saying that I'm not a bigot. It's my way of saying that this is my club, the open to all thing. And as I've got older, we're moving away from all that. We're becoming a business. We're becoming a corporate entity. And I couldn't care less if we had to start all over again with people that are just Celtic-minded or whatever phrase you want to use. And for that reason alone, selling the club to venture capitalists or whatever, forget it.
But again, I think it's very interesting. The perspective of Hector, we know we're all passionate, we all love the club, but the romance of the club means that we can't detach ourselves emotionally. So we've all turned up every second Saturday. We've all moaned, we can't believe they hired that bastard Higgins. But they've done it and we'll still turn up. And that's where Monty points out. That's where they've got you in a barrel. Until 50,000 people every fortnight say, we're no coming, and we're no. But again, like this, and this is what annoyed me last year about the season, or this year about the season books. There's a cut-off date. There's no extension. We're still in the middle of COVID, and the club went, "Fuck you! You have to give the money straight away because we've got a waiting list," and started threatening people with a waiting list. That was the shite. I mean, that kind of attitude. So again, thanks very much for everyone for listening to that. And only waits to see what happens with the AGM in November. Dare say we can review it, Ralph, come the end of November and see how things go on. It'll be interesting. All right, so it's just left for me, Desmond, to say thank you to the man across the water, the man from Spadetown Brewery, Ludgate, CM Monty Burns. Thank you very much, Monty.
Thanks a million, lads. Appreciate it. Good chat.
Thank you. Thanks again for joining, Ralph. It was good to have you on. Thank you, Ralph.
Cheers,
for those who can't see, we're on Skype. And we can just see Ralph's head. It looks like a billiard ball. Just the corner of it.
It looks like it's basically the equivalent of Ralph stroked his phone down the toilet. That's what it looks like. That's the kind of angle I'm looking
You
at.
see, last time you says I look like I come off a 10-day bender, so I've had my hair cut and had a shave, and now
It's about a 6-day bender now.
anyway.
You look like Tyson Fury's wee brother after a fight. Right, and okay, and finally, this left for me to say thanks to the resident Beaton lover, Hector Bandido. Thank you, Hector.
Apologies for swearing, folks.
His name's near Beaton. Good night. Okay, folks, my name is Desmond. Thanks for listening. Good night.